I'm also discussing when I was at the NIH, and there were committees on the Hill, particularly the committee, the McGovern committee, that developed the first dietary guidelines. Actually, what they did, they wanted to tell everybody what to eat, and they called them dietary goals. And at that time, I was the chair of the Nutrition Coordinating Committee of the NIH, so they sent the report to us to review it, and I had to write the review of their dietary goals. And I pointed out that you cannot have the same quantitative recommendations for everybody, because a dietary goal that depends on the exact amount for everybody is scientifically incorrect. What you can have is you can have guidelines and modify them accordingly based on their family history, their genetics, and the food supply that is available where they live. And it's interesting that goes back in 1977, and 3 years ago, NIH developed a program called All of Us, which is, they're studying genetic variation in the population. And just 2 years ago, they started the personalized nutrition program. It took that long, but at least we stopped it. The NIH is a very important scientific agency, probably the jewel in the crown of all the agencies of the federal government. And we did not hesitate to tell them exactly. Of course, they didn't like it, but they also knew that there was enough scientific evidence of what we said, and because we never say anything that was not referenced properly. And so that, I think it was a very important part of the job I had and what I did. It also sensitized me to how industry functions, how Congress functions, what happens in terms of the pharmaceutical industry. Why would you have a food supply when you know it's not consistent with evolution? But I guess you needed to have more science out to the public. And I wrote the book because I wanted all of this information to be available to anyone who's interested and educated, but also the book should be read by high school teachers and taught in high school, I think, medical schools, schools of public health, because it's the only book that brings everything together in terms of the science, politics, evolution, global issues, and unfortunately, what is going on today with the fake foods and ultra-processed.
Based on all of your experience at the NIH and elsewhere, how much influence does the food industry have over the construction of things like the dietary guidelines that we get from federal agencies?
More so than any other group. So you really have to work with food industry, or you have to develop a mechanism where it's regulated a bit more than it is, including the standardizing the various supplements, because there's no question that there are deficiencies in the diet. And there are people, because of the way they select food, they would be deficient, and they're going to need supplements. But I think all supplements need to be standardized, or at least know exactly what's in it. That is a very important aspect.